This video will provide a brief review of how to multiply and divide fractions and mixed numbers. In the first example, we have two proper fractions that are multiplied together. Proper fractions, remember, are fractions in which the numerator is smaller than the denominator. In this particular case, I can just multiply across the numerators and across the denominators to get my solution. 1 times 3 is 3, and 2 times 5 is 10. So 1/2 times 3/5 is 3/10. There's no number that will divide into both 3 and 10, so that is simplified, and I'm finished with example 1. In example 2, I still have two proper fractions, 1/2 and 14/25. So I can work this just the same way that I worked example 1. I can multiply across the numerators. 1 times 14 is 14. 2 times 25 is 50. So I get 14/50. In this particular case, there is a number that will divide into both 14 and 50. That number is 2. So I'm going to divide the numerator and denominator by 2. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 50 divided by 2 is 25. And that is my simplified answer. Now there's one other way that I could have worked this problem, which is the method that I actually prefer, because it allows me to work with smaller numbers along the way. So let me show you what that is. I have 1/2 times 14/25. And rather than multiplying at the beginning, if you look, this 14 and this 2 have a factor in common. 2 will divide into both of them. So I can divide them by 2 before I do the multiplication. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And then after I do the simplification, do the multiplication. So 1 times 7 is 7. 1 times 25 is 25. And I get the same result, but I did the simplification before the multiplication. And it's your choice how you want to do those types of problems. Okay, example 3 has mixed numbers. And so the first thing we have to do is change the mixed numbers into improper fractions. You always have to do that with multiplying and dividing. So this first mixed number, 3.5, remember that you multiply these two numbers, the 3 and the 2, and then you add the 1. So 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1 is 7. And the number in the denominator, it always stays the same. So if you have a 2 here, you've got a 2 in your improper fraction. And then for the second mixed number, I'm going to multiply these. 1 times 21 is 21, and add the 1. That's 22. And then the denominator again stays the same. It was 21, it stays 21. Now I could multiply across right now, 7 times 22, but that's a really big number and I don't feel like working with really big numbers, so what I'm going to do is simplify ahead of time. I notice that the 7 and the 21 can be simplified. 7 will divide into both of those. 7 goes into 7 one time, and 7 goes into 21 3 times. And then also, the 2 and the 22 have a 2 in common. So I'm going to take those and divide those by 2. So 2 goes into 2 one time, 2 divides into a 22 11 times, and now I'm going to multiply across with smaller numbers. 1 times 11 is 11, and 1 times 3 is 3. So that's my answer as an improper fraction. If you want to go back to mixed numbers, remember your denominator is going to stay the same in the fraction. The whole number that I get out in front is how many times 3 divides into 11. I think 3 times 3 is 9, so 3 divides into 11 3 times. And then when I do that division, I get a remainder of 2, so that's what goes in the numerator. So the mixed number answer is 3 2/3. The improper fraction answer is 11/3, and either one is really okay. All right, let's do some division. So the first thing you need to remember is that when you're dividing fractions, that's the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So when you have two fractions with a division sign in between them, you're going to make two changes. You're going to change the division sign to a multiplication sign, and you're going to change the fraction that follows the division sign to its reciprocal. So 3/5 divided by 7/10 is going to be 3/5 times 10/7. And then, just like we did with multiplication, I noticed that these have a common factor. 5 will divide into both of those. So 5 divides into 5 one time. 5 divides into 10 two times. So 3 times 2 is 6. 1 times 7 is 7, which means the quotient, that's the answer to a division problem, 3/5 divided by 7/10 is 6/7. Let's do one last division example with mixed numbers. So there's two steps here. The first step is to rewrite these as improper fractions and not worry about the fact that there's a division sign right there. So 3 3/8, when I change that into an improper fraction, I multiply these. 3 times 8 is 24, plus 3 is 27. Denominator stays 8. Leave the division sign alone. For these, I'm going to multiply the 5 times 16 and add the 1. That's 81. 16 is the denominator. That stays the same. That's the first step. Mix numbers to improper fractions. Then I'm going to change my division into a multiplication. So 27/8 divided by 81/16. The 27/8 stays the same. The division sign becomes multiplication, and the fraction becomes its reciprocal. Okay, now I'm back to a multiplication problem. I could multiply right now, but when I look at 27 times 16, I think that's a big number I don't want to deal with. So I'm going to see if I can simplify anything. I think 8 and 16 have a factor of 8 in common, so I can divide those. 8 goes into 8 one time, 8 goes into 16 two times. And then when I look at the other ones, 27 and 81, see, I notice a 9 divides into both of those. So 9 goes into 27 3 times, and 9 goes into 81 9 times. So now I've got 3 over 1 times 2 over 9. Hey, but when I look at that again, I notice there's still a 3 in common. So this 3 and this 9 can still be simplified. 3 divides into 3 one time. 3 divides into 9 3 times. So now I've got 1 times 1 times 2, which is 2, and 1 times 3 is 3. So the simplified answer to this division problem, which is called a quotient, then the quotient is 2/3.